Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting literature-centered, kidlit-loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I'm delighted to be talking with Dana Kramaroff, and Dana is the author of a book called The Do More Club, and I'm told there's a t-shirt. Is that right, Dana?
It is a t-shirt. There's the t-shirt. It's very special.
I love it. I love it. And I do really love the cover art as well. I enjoy the contents of the book, of course, but uh, the way you have characters centered and displayed, and it's a very nice, catchy cover, if I may say.
I love it too. The original cover had kindness rocks on it, and I thought it was amazing. With People Penguin, they wanted the kids, and I'm so glad that they made that decision because
Hmm.
I just love all of my cast of characters. It just warms my heart. So
Absolutely, absolutely. We've got to have those characters that are forefront and relatable, and love it. So, what connected you to the written word initially
yeah,
before you were an author?
I love that question. So I've been a teacher for 23 years, and I started out teaching second and third grade. And here sixth grade. It's the very start of my career.
Hmm.
Um, I love teaching writing to my students, and I really feel as if that is one of the big reasons that connected me to wanting to be a writer myself. I was taught from very early in my career when I went through my National Writing Project site that the best teachers of writing are writers themselves. And so I started, living that life of carrying a writer's notebook and, writing like, just about all the little snapshots from life. And that really inspired me to want to be a writer. I just love that experience of seeing kids' eyes also light up when I was reading picture books to them, and chapter books, and it just made me feel like, okay, I want to write for this audience. They're the best audience, little kids, so and older kids, obviously. My books for middle grade, but um, I just love the idea of seeing my words in kids' hands. That just was really what it came down to.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. And the Do More Club has that youthful energy, youthful voice, but it's a voice with a purpose. So I'm curious about what you hope readers take away from the book and from reading your work.
Yeah, so I grew up in an area. I'll kind of go a little backtrack a little bit of life history without getting too in depth. But
Sure,
I grew up
sure.
in an area where I was one of a handful of Jewish kids. But when I started teaching, I was usually the only Jewish person in the building. And where I live and where I teach now, my own children were the only Jewish kids, pretty much in the
Mhm.
whole building. And I had an encounter with a teacher that I was working with. I was in another life, I was an instructional coach. So I was working with a fourth grade teacher, and this teacher had them reading Number of the Stars with her students. And she had a student that came up to her about a week into reading this and said, I'm sorry, I can't read this anymore. This didn't happen. This is a lie. And his father, he said, my dad told me this is a lie. And
Wow.
that really inspired me. I've been writing middle grade books for a while and been trying to get an agent, but that was really the big push into this story idea. Taking my experience hearing about that kiddo that I had sat beside and conference with before I even knew his background and his parents' influence, right? So
Mhm.
and that combined with my own children's experience, I just wanted to create a book for really any kid that was hiding who they were,
Mhm.
um, no matter what they were hiding, because I think all kids underneath the surface, have things going on, and we all have battles. Kids all have battles they're fighting. So I wanted for the Jewish kids who feel like they have to hide who they are, but also for any kid. So that really was a big part of how I came to write this story.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so glad you did, and it's amazing to me that thinking exists in the world. But glad that you found a voice that can be shared across boundaries to kind of address some of those questions and address some of those issues. Um, what is it about writing for young people in particular? You talked about that energy of being a teacher and wanting your words in their hands. What is it about that audience that makes it sort of a unique craft and something really special to you?
I love that question because, my last 3 years before this year, I taught fifth grade. And so I saw in these kids, all of these things, these fears, these worries, their experiences, how hard it is just to be a human. But to be 10 and 11 is just so hard for these kids. They're just trying to figure out who they are, fit in, and try to be themselves and not lose themselves in the process.
Mhm.
And I think as an adult writing for this age group, one of the things that I know is that I bring all this life experience, all of these things that I've gone through, my knowledge, right, of like being an adult and seeing to the other side. But the unique challenge, I think, is kind of being able to bring it down to a level that these kids of this 10, 11-year-old age can relate to, is what makes writing for middle grade so unique.
Mhm.
It's tricky because you have to have that voice that they, when they read it, they think, okay, this sounds like a kid, and
Mhm.
not some adult who has all this experience. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's something that is exciting to me to try to do. So I really love writing for middle grade.
Yeah, yeah. I was a middle grades teacher for 8 years, and I've taught people who want to teach middle grades. That's always an interesting way to phrase. So it is just such a special age, and there are so many things happening, so much attention to the world, and this awareness that is just building. So love that. And I suppose my final official question, and then we can hit anything that we might have missed, is what has your creative attention at the moment? And I always like to ask about where people can go to find out more about your work, find out about your books, and get in touch with you if they want to.
Of course. So right now I am working on a really big revision for my next middle grade book. Um, I initially wrote this next book in verse. My editor, um, really kind of opened my eyes to see that the story is not served best in verse.
Hmm.
And so I have a really big creative endeavor that I'm going through right now to basically take this story idea that I have, and rewrite it in prose, which I've written in prose before, but it's a little overwhelming. And in
Hmm. Hmm.
creativity, it's supposed to be this joyous thing, but when you have that overwhelming piece, you've got to keep on coming back to those creative, you know, moments that like kind of make your brain and eyes light up.
Yeah.
But the book is lovingly titled The Least Interesting Thing. My editor does not love the title because, who wants to pick up a book that's called The Least Interesting Thing? But the premise is that it's about a young girl who is in a bigger body, and she is trying to learn that the way she looks is the least interesting thing about her.
Oh, I love it.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a beautiful idea because I think so many people struggle with that. And so the story is really close to my heart, and that combined with the creativity kind of coming back into my brain once I wrapped my head around everything, it feels exciting and new in a way. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a
Love
big
that.
project, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So, and then you asked about where people can find information.
Hmm.
I have a author website, danakramaroff.com, and you can read all about me, see writer's notebooks, covers of mine, different ideas for books that I love, novels and verse, novels and prose for middle grade kids that I just adore and love talking about, and other tidbits of information about me that you might or might not want to know. But hey, like it's a world of new things that you would never know about me. So I would love
Love
for
that.
people to visit.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Have we missed anything in the talk through that you want to make sure to share?
No, I guess, the one thing that people talk about all the time on social media is, how do we get more books in teachers' hands? And I'm
Hmm.
so connected to teachers and writers on social media. Like that's my social media, world plays a big part in my growth as an educator and a writer. And I just think there's so many educators that are not connected that way. Maybe the only way they hear about books is through this classic book order. And so I guess my one thing I just would love to mention is just for teachers that might be in your audience to, stay connected on social media and find those great stories that are out there that are not talked about and not just in the little 3 pages of the Scholastic Book Order, because there's a whole world of beautiful, beautiful literature out there, and I just want to see all of these amazing books in teachers' hands so we can share them with kids. So
Yeah,
that's my little
absolutely.
problem.
Absolutely love it. I used to love at that time they called it the Troll Book Order. And I used to love just going through that and finding new titles and discovering authors. And this was, of course, in the 80s and the early 90s. So there's such a wide range of youth literature that's being published right now that's really fantastic. So, including your work as well.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you so
yes.
much.
Yeah. So Dana, thank you for the time. Thank you for the talk. And I hope we can have a conversation in the future about your book that's currently in revision because it sounds wonderful as well.
Thank you for being such a great voice for the word and images and all the things that you do. So your work is really inspiring. So thank you for having me.
My
I'm so
pleasure.
grateful.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Talk again soon.